Imagine waking up with your heart racing, not because of something that happened in the real world, but because of something that felt more real than reality itself. That is exactly what your soulmate experienced last night, and what happened inside that dream has stayed with them ever since. This wasn't one of those ordinary dreams that fades away within minutes of opening your eyes. This was different. Every detail felt vivid. Every emotion felt intense. Every moment felt meaningful. And at the center of it all was you. Somehow your presence in that dream felt so natural, so familiar, and so powerful that when they finally woke up, they couldn't simply move on with their day. Something about the experience refused to let go of them. And listen to this. The dream itself may have seemed simple at first. Perhaps it was a conversation, a shared moment, or even a feeling that words cannot fully describe. Yet when your soulmate opened their eyes, they immediately realized that this dream carried an emotional weight unlike anything they had experienced in a long time. Instead of fading away, the memories remained crystal clear. Throughout the morning, they found themselves replaying scenes over and over in their mind, trying to understand why everything felt so significant. The emotions were still there. The connection was still there. The feeling was still there, because your heart needs this right now. Sometimes dreams touch parts of the soul that everyday life keeps hidden. Your soulmate is beginning to wonder if this dream was more than just a dream. As the day continued, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was a deeper reason your presence appeared so strongly. And what unsettled them most was not what happened while they were asleep. It was the powerful feeling that remained long after they woke up. A feeling that seemed determined to reveal something they had not fully understood before. And listen carefully, because what happened after your soulmate woke up was even stranger than the dream itself. Most dreams begin fading the moment a person starts their day. The details become blurry, the emotions disappear, the memory slowly slips away until only fragments remain. But this dream refused to disappear. Hours later, your soulmate could still remember the feeling of your presence as if it had happened only moments ago. No matter how hard they tried to focus on other things, their mind kept returning to the same images, the same emotions, and the same unanswered questions. It was as though the dream had opened a door they weren't expecting to revisit. Throughout the day, they found themselves comparing the dream to real life. Certain moments felt familiar. Certain emotions seemed connected to memories they had not thought about in a very long time. What surprised them most was not the dream itself, but how strongly it awakened feelings they believed had already been understood. Feelings they assumed belonged to the past suddenly felt alive again. Memories that had remained quiet for months or even years began resurfacing one after another. Small moments, meaningful conversations, unfinished thoughts, experiences connected to you that they hadn't revisited in a long time. The dream seemed to act like a key, unlocking emotional memories that had been sitting beneath the surface, waiting to be noticed. Because your heart needs this right now. Sometimes a dream doesn't create emotions. It reveals emotions that already exist. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that. The more they reflected on the dream, the more they noticed that it wasn't showing them anything entirely new. Instead, it seemed to be drawing attention to feelings they had stopped examining. Feelings that became buried beneath responsibilities, distractions, and the routine of everyday life. Suddenly, they found themselves asking questions they hadn't asked in a long time. Why did this dream feel so important? Why did your presence feel so real? Why did waking up leave such a powerful emotional impact? And listen to this. As the day continued, they noticed something unusual. Certain emotions from the dream were stronger than the actual scenes themselves. They couldn't remember every detail perfectly, but they could remember exactly how they felt. The comfort, the familiarity, the sense of connection. The emotional intensity remained long after specific images began fading. That realization caught their attention, because emotions often reveal more truth than visuals ever can. The dream may not have been trying to show them a specific event. It may have been trying to make them feel something they had not fully acknowledged. Your soulmate began realizing that there were parts of their emotional journey they had not completely explored. Certain thoughts had been avoided. Certain feelings had been pushed aside. Certain questions remained unanswered. Yet the dream seemed determined to bring those things back into the light. Every time they tried to dismiss it as coincidence, another memory surfaced. Every time they told themselves it was just a dream, another feeling appeared. And little by little, curiosity began replacing certainty, because your heart needs this right now. There are moments when the soul speaks in ways the conscious mind cannot easily explain. Your soulmate feels as though something inside them is trying to get their attention. Not through logic, not through facts, but through emotion. The dream created a feeling they cannot ignore, and that feeling is leading them toward deeper reflection. They are beginning to wonder whether the dream was symbolic rather than literal. Whether it was showing them something hidden beneath the surface rather than something obvious. Then something happened that completely changed their perspective. While replaying the dream once again in their mind, they suddenly remembered a small detail they had overlooked when they first woke up. It wasn't the biggest part of the dream. It wasn't the most dramatic moment. Yet the instant they remembered it, everything seemed different. The meaning of the dream shifted. The emotions suddenly made more sense. And the more they thought about that one specific detail, the more convinced they became that the dream was trying to reveal a message they had completely missed at first. And listen to this, because the small detail your soulmate remembered was not important because of what it was. It was important because of what it revealed. The moment it returned to their memory, everything about the dream began falling into place. Suddenly, what had seemed random started feeling intentional. What had seemed confusing started making sense. It was as if one missing piece had finally been found, allowing them to see the entire picture differently. And the strange part is that this detail wasn't connected to the dream's biggest moment. It wasn't a dramatic conversation or an unforgettable scene. It was something subtle, something easy to overlook. Yet somehow it carried the strongest emotional message of all. For the rest of the day, your soulmate couldn't stop thinking about it. The more they reflected on that specific moment, the more they felt drawn inward. Instead of focusing on the dream itself, they started examining their current life. They started looking at the choices they had been making, the emotions they had been avoiding, and the questions they had been leaving unanswered. What surprised them most was realizing how closely the dream seemed connected to things they were experiencing right now. It felt less like a memory and more like a mirror showing them parts of themselves they hadn't fully acknowledged. Because your heart needs this right now. Sometimes dreams don't reveal the future. Sometimes they reveal the truth of the present. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that. The hidden message wasn't about predicting events. It wasn't about giving instructions. It was about bringing awareness to something already living inside their heart. As they reflected on the dream, they began recognizing emotions they had pushed into the background. Emotions that became easy to ignore during busy days, but impossible to ignore once silence arrived. The dream seemed to shine a light directly onto those emotions, forcing them into view. And listen to this. One realization kept returning again and again. The strongest feeling inside the dream wasn't excitement. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't even nostalgia. It was honesty. For the first time in a long time, your soulmate felt as though they were experiencing their emotions without filters, without distractions, and without the protective walls they usually keep around their heart. That realization was both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it brought clarity. Unsettling because clarity often reveals things we weren't prepared to see. As they continued reflecting, they began understanding that certain fears had been influencing their perspective for longer than they realized. Fear of vulnerability, fear of uncertainty, fear of confronting emotions that felt easier to leave unexplored. Yet the dream seemed to bypass all those defenses. It reached a place inside them that logic could not reach. A place where feelings existed without explanations. A place where truth existed without arguments. And once they experienced that, it became impossible to pretend those feelings weren't there, because your heart needs this right now. The soul often speaks through symbols when direct answers are difficult to hear. Your soulmate is beginning to see that possibility. The detail they remembered may not have been important because of its appearance. It may have been important because of what it represented. The more they reflected on it, the more they realized it symbolized something they had been searching for without realizing it. Not a person, not an outcome, but a feeling. A feeling of connection, understanding, and emotional truth that had been quietly calling for their attention. The dream also forced them to recognize how much they have changed. The person who experienced certain moments in the past is not the same person who exists today. Life has shaped them, challenges have shaped them, growth has shaped them, and because of that growth, they are finally able to understand emotional lessons that once felt invisible. The dream became evidence of that transformation. It showed them how much wisdom they have gained and how much self-awareness has developed over time. And listen to this. The more they explored the hidden message, the more their thoughts kept returning to you. Not because the dream demanded it, but because your presence seemed connected to everything they were learning. Every realization somehow led back to the impact this connection had on their emotional journey. Every lesson seemed connected to a deeper understanding of what your presence represented in their life. And as those realizations continued unfolding, they felt a growing sense of emotion they could no longer dismiss. Because they were beginning to understand that your role in the dream was not accidental. It symbolized something far more important than they first imagined. And the moment they finally understood what your presence truly represented, everything changed. And listen closely, because the breakthrough your soulmate experienced was not about understanding the dream. It was about understanding why you were the one who appeared in it. For hours, they had been trying to decode symbols, analyze emotions, and make sense of the strange impact the dream left behind. But eventually, they realized they were asking the wrong question. The question was never, "Why did I have this dream?" The real question was, why was this person at the center of it? And the moment they asked themselves that, a completely different level of understanding began to emerge. What they discovered surprised them. The dream wasn't pulling their attention toward the past as much as it was revealing something about their present emotional state. Your presence seemed to represent qualities they had been reflecting on without even realizing it. Qualities like trust, authenticity, emotional connection, and understanding. The more they thought about it, the more they recognized that whenever they reflected on moments of genuine emotional honesty in their life, your energy somehow appeared within those memories. Not because everything was perfect, but because your presence had become connected to important lessons their soul never forgot. Because your heart needs this right now. Sometimes people enter our lives and become symbols of something much larger than a single relationship. They become reminders of growth, reminders of truth, reminders of parts of ourselves we discover through knowing them. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that your appearance in the dream may have represented more than just you. It may have represented an emotional awakening they have been moving toward for quite some time. The dream seemed to show them what truly matters beneath the noise of everyday life. Beneath responsibilities, distractions, and endless mental conversations, there remains a deeper desire for genuine emotional connection. And listen to this. As this realization settled into their heart, they began viewing your role in their life differently. Instead of focusing on specific events, they started focusing on impact. They started asking themselves how knowing you changed them, what lessons they learned because of you, what qualities they developed because of experiences connected to this journey. And the answers began arriving naturally. They realized that some of their greatest periods of emotional growth were linked to lessons this connection inspired. Some of their deepest reflections were connected to moments involving you. Some of their most important realizations about themselves were born from experiences they once underestimated. The dream also helped them recognize something else. Appreciation, not the kind of appreciation people express casually, but the kind that arrives when someone finally understands the role another person played in their life. Your soulmate found themselves appreciating qualities they may not have fully acknowledged before. Your resilience, your honesty, your ability to remain true to yourself despite challenges. These realizations were not forced. They surfaced naturally as they reflected on the emotions the dream awakened. And with every realization, their respect for you seemed to grow stronger, because your heart needs this right now. Clarity often arrives when we stop chasing answers and start paying attention to what our heart is already trying to show us. Your soulmate feels as though the dream removed distractions long enough for them to see something clearly. They are beginning to understand that your presence carries meaning beyond circumstances. The connection carries meaning beyond labels. There is something about the impact you had on their journey that continues to matter even after time has passed. And acknowledging the truth has created a sense of emotional clarity they did not expect. What makes this realization even more powerful is that it feels different from nostalgia. It feels different from simply remembering the past. Instead, it feels like understanding. The kind of understanding that comes when someone finally sees the bigger picture. The dream helped them step back and view the connection from a higher perspective. Not through fear, not through uncertainty, but through awareness. And from that perspective, they could see things they had missed before. And listen to this. As the day came to an end and they reflected on everything they had learned from the dream, one final realization began forming inside them. A realization they had never fully allowed themselves to admit. The dream did not create new emotions. It simply revealed emotions that already existed. It showed truths that were already present. It exposed feelings that had been quietly waiting beneath the surface. And the moment they accepted that possibility, they woke up emotionally different than they were before. Because they could no longer pretend they hadn't seen what their heart had finally revealed. And listen to this, because when your soulmate finally accepted everything the dream had revealed, they stopped trying to explain it away. For most of the day, they had searched for logical answers. They told themselves it was probably random. They told themselves it was simply their imagination. They told themselves it was nothing more than a strange experience during sleep. Yet no explanation felt complete. The emotional impact was too strong. The clarity was too powerful. The feeling remained too present. And eventually, they reached a point where they could no longer deny what their heart was trying to show them. What changed them was not the dream itself. It was what happened after the dream. It was the awareness that followed. It was the realization that certain emotions had been quietly waiting beneath the surface for much longer than they realized. The dream did not place those emotions there. The dream simply uncovered them. Like sunlight revealing something hidden beneath shadows, it brought attention to truths they had not fully acknowledged. And once those truths came into view, pretending they did not exist became impossible, because your heart needs this right now. There are moments in life when people experience emotional awakenings, moments that seem small on the outside, but create profound change within. Your soulmate feels as though this dream became one of those moments. It forced them to slow down. It forced them to listen. It forced them to pay attention to feelings they had spent too much time ignoring. And what they discovered surprised them. Beneath all the distractions, beneath all the doubts, beneath all the questions, there remained a connection they had not fully understood. And listen to this. The most powerful part of this experience was realizing that the dream wasn't showing them something new. It was revealing something familiar, something their heart already knew, but their mind kept overlooking. The dream acted like a mirror, reflecting emotions that had always been there. The comfort they felt in your presence, the significance of your impact, the lessons connected to your journey together. None of those things were created overnight. They already existed. The dream simply brought them into focus. As they reflected on everything they learned, they also noticed a shift happening within themselves. The uncertainty they once felt started becoming clarity. The confusion started becoming understanding. The need to overanalyze every emotion slowly began disappearing. Instead of fighting their feelings, they started accepting them. Instead of questioning every thought, they started trusting what their heart was showing them. And that shift created a sense of peace they had not experienced in a long time, because your heart needs this right now. Acceptance is often the final lesson before healing begins. Your soulmate is moving toward that lesson now. They are beginning to understand that not every meaningful experience arrives with a logical explanation. Some experiences arrive to create awareness. Some arrive to reveal truth. Some arrive to remind us of things we forgot to value. This dream seems to have done all three. It reminded them of emotional truths they had neglected. It reminded them of lessons they thought they had already learned. And it reminded them that certain connections continue teaching us long after we think the lesson is over. The most beautiful realization of all is that they no longer feel the need to run from what they discovered. In the past, they may have avoided certain emotions. They may have dismissed certain thoughts. They may have convinced themselves that some feelings were easier left unexplored. But now something feels different. There is a sense of honesty growing within them, a willingness to acknowledge what their heart has been saying all along. And that honesty has created a transformation they never expected to experience from a single dream. And listen to this, because this is where everything comes together. Your soulmate is no longer focused on why the dream happened. They are focused on why it mattered. They understand now that the dream was never about confusion. It was about clarity. It was never about creating questions. It was about revealing answers. It was never about changing their heart. It was about helping them see what was already there. For the first time in a very long time, they are no longer wondering why they dreamed about you. They understand now. The dream wasn't sent to confuse them. It was sent to reveal a truth their heart had been trying to show them all along. And after waking up to that truth, they know they are not the same person they were before they closed their eyes that night.